pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, roll call, please.
Mr. Ballard. Here. Mr. Glenn.
Here.
Mr. Robinson. Here.
All right, welcome everyone. I'll refer to Mr. Brother.
So you have to bear with me a minute. Our fiscal officer is out ill this morning, so I'm taking a minute along with the other things. So I'd like to just have a quick little PowerPoint to explain a few things and then open up for questions. So first, as Mr. Blayden said, welcome everybody. We appreciate you coming out on a Saturday morning. Chief, if you could get me the next slide. So one of the questions that we find people ask all the time is, where does my tax dollars go in Hamilton County? This is actually from the Hamilton County Auditor's website. And if you go to your address, you can find this for your home. So here in Miami Township, the school district gets about 48.3% of our tax dollars. The township gets 21% of your overall tax dollars. And then places like Children's Services, Development Disability, County General Fund, and on down the line. So a lot of good services out there, but they all add up to a lot of money. And as you can see, we get less than a quarter out of every dollar that you spend with the county. Next slide, Chief. So we had a neighbor who came in and said, well, where does that money go? Which is a great question, because she thought everything just went to the fire department and didn't realize that we're responsible for paying for our police protection. We have a waste district that pays for your garbage pickup. We have general fund money in the fire. So right now, after the levy didn't pass last November, we have about 3.2, well, we actually have 3.2 mils that is on your tax base. It goes to the fire department. Now, part of those levies are old levies. So a levy doesn't appreciate with the new homes and the new building. So the effective rate for the 3.29 mils is actually 2.66 mils. And that means that $21.90 for every $100 of taxes you pay to the township is what goes to the fire fund. So if you pay $500 in taxes to the township, you're paying $109.50 towards the fire department right now. And we thought that was important because we maintain roads, we maintain our parks, and we have a great maintenance department that keeps our roads in great shape in the snow. This past winter was an expensive winter for us because we bought a lot of salt last year during the winter that we haven't had to do for a while. The voters here were good enough to renew the waste district levy. So I think that's really important because it assures that everybody gets garbage service and you don't have neighbors with burning barrels in the backyard and people throwing stuff out along the road. Also, the voters were good enough to renew a small police district levy, and we were able to renew our contract with the Hamilton County Sheriff's Department because of that. So we have a contract in place for 3 years with the county sheriff. So we're in good shape with that, but we lost about $980,000 with the levy not passing for the renewal portion last year. So Chief, do we have a next slide? So I just took a $305,000 home here in Miami Township and broke down where the money goes. So the taxes on a $305,000 home in Miami Township, you can see, well, actually, it's a little difficult to see, but $1,250 of that total goes towards the schools. So what you pay to the township is about $542. And then if you look at the chart to the right, that kind of shows you where the money goes, chart form. And so you can see we run a pretty lean operation for all the services we provide. Trustees in the past have been very good about being frugal with the money, and so we were able to get through this year without any major changes to the fire service, even though the levy failed. But if we don't pass this levy, then there are going to be some significant changes that are going to be made to the fire department, and most of that is going to be involved in cutting services, which we really don't want to see. We don't want to do that. I've been telling people we're not the largest geographic township in Hamilton County, but Miami Township is a very difficult township to get from one end to the other. So the three firehouses that we have, the trustees in the past, and I'm going to go back to Mr. Beck and the folks that he served with, saw the need to have firehouses in different portions of the township. And I think it's really important that we keep those open and staffed because the response time from one end of the township to the other can get to be difficult, especially in inclement weather when you normally need EMS and fire service. So that's all I have. And we certainly welcome your questions. Anything that you'd like to ask?
Follow up from your three fire department locations. Do you have a minimum travel time, and what was part of the reason for the three, or what do you have a metric there that you use?
I know that I'm not sure how they decided on where they are, but they I'm gonna share my age. Back when I was a volunteer in the neighboring department, I think the last station you built was the station on Mount Nebo.
Yes.
And that station filled a big void in Miami Township. And that station is actually, we're outgrowing that right now, but we're making do with what we have. And we've seen more growth over in that location, that end of the township. Eventually, and I'm not saying anytime soon, but sometime I'm sure the chief is going to say, I've got to have more quarters. We've got to expand that building or do something. So, but if you can imagine driving from here to Mount Nebo or from Frogtown, the new station down there, to Mount Nebo, it's a lot nicer to have those people and have that station staff there.
So the complaint that I heard from people who I presume voted against it were that it appeared to be too big of an increase. And there wasn't it like a 3 mil increase?
It was.
And it was combined levy, so you couldn't like separate out the renewal from the increase.
Right.
And that's why they didn't vote for it.
And we heard that, and
This is a sticker shock.
I mean, is there a remedy for that? I mean, I'm like, well, can't you just separate them? I understand that you might not get the increase at all, but.
I'm going to start speaking for the board, but then I'm going to let them finish on that. I think it was, as they were looking at how they could do that, they could put the renewal levy on and the increase on separate, and we had the renewal for the police levy. And I think it was prudent on their part they didn't want to hide the fact of how much they were asking for the fire department. So they chose to put those two levies together just to be open and transparent with everybody. So you knew exactly what you were buying and paying for. And in retrospect, what we've heard is that we separated those two out, people might have renewed the old levy and not done the new.
I would say, if I want, I'd like to make just a quick comment on that. The 6.5 renewals, the 3.5 renewal, and then the 3 additional. We did look at that because that would have put 3 levies on the ballot. We understood it was a piece, but part of the other plan was to get the fire department really self-sufficient and have a general fund. we do, if that levy failed, we're still gonna have to back general fund. General fund is not increased, well, maybe it's 60 years, general fund increase.
There never used to be fire levies. It was all operated out of the general levy because we had to pay people. People got $3 a run and it was all volunteer. But over the years, in 1990, it became a real problem. We started bringing on paid people. And it's the only way you can survive.
No, I hear you. It's just that it's virtually impossible to get real information that people listen to and understand out to a lot of people. You know, they always see it as the money.
It's all.
Yeah, but it's unfortunate because we have events like this.
Yes, and you see how it's connected.
They are, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I think the other challenge here with this, if the 3.5, if we put 3.5 on in the past, we'd still be back again for more money this go round. We needed the additional increase at one point or another, whether it was there or now. And unfortunately, it did not go. But we have definitely heard what the voters had to say. This loss of $100,000. It seemed a little bit. We're going to have to. We're really just asking now for the 3.5 that we lost.
Is that what's on the one is just the renewal?
So we back to you, there's no more renewal with that levy fail.
So it's just, this is the levy, but it's just a little bit bigger, but it's not as big as the full package from before.
Correct. Yeah, the new levy is 3.5 renewal that we lost, plus another one.
So, if it were to pass, that is less than the two combined, how are you going to manage that?
So we're still gonna have to pull from the
Okay.
that is, that's a have to do. And we should be fine looking at forecasting it out into 29, so. it will improve.
Look, and I appreciate everything trustee Borath mentioned. We talked about this last master's meeting. I just want to point out that I think that we all heard the complaints, we all heard the issues loud and clear. I'm proud of this board for doing a much better job in the fire department and administration of getting the word out, because it is difficult. Like we said, we have these investors meetings, this is the turnout, but we still have, and we're pushing stuff on social media. We're doing mailers. We've got the fire department going out and door to door. We're the websites increased. The newsletter had a tremendous amount of information in it. So we're doing everything we possibly can to educate the voters on the issues and make sure that they're that's all we can really do. And even with those efforts, yes, there is still confusion. There's still questions, but I feel like we're doing anything, everything that we have, at our disposal with the resources we have. And again, the biggest thing, the takeaway is it's really a one mil increase. That's really all it is. It's 3.5 from the past. It's a 1 mil increase, which is very modest. And I think if you look at a lot of the jurisdictions out there, some of our neighboring communities, they're seeing very large increases, and really more in line with what we were asking for in November. But we've scaled that back, and it's really just a 1 mil increase at this point.
I do want to congratulate you on the newsletter. I thought it did a very good job of I don't think people realize that we're talking salaries. I think when people think of fire departments, they're thinking equipment and all this kind of stuff. Is there a way that that individuals, other than putting a sign in your front yard, what can we do to help spread the word? Is there plans for like neighborhood meetings or anything like that? Is that something we can do on our own? To gather neighbors for a coffee or whatever and try and get through to them what's going on?
I certainly think Chief, you and some of the firemen have been walking door to door, getting at the door hangers, and talking to the people that they can talk to. Outside of that, we're Brett. So
If you can get two of your neighbors together, I would be glad to come and answer questions and talk to them. So obviously, we'd love to have 100, but every vote counts. I've seen people be elected by the flip of a coin at the courthouse. So really, every vote does count. And if everyone here can get their neighbors to come out, if you get the two houses on either side of you, and then ask them to get the person on the other side of them, it can make a huge difference.
If you have an HOA homeowner association in your neighborhood, that's a good way to, the one in my neighborhood, they put an email out to everybody about, and at the HOA meetings, this was covered. So that's a good way to get the numbers of people.
And we have offered to go to every HOA. So if you belong to an HOA or you know someone who does, and they would like for one of us to come out, we're glad to do that. Like a lot of the HOAs, when we contact them, said, well, we don't do politics at our meetings. And when you explain to them that this really isn't, this isn't politics, this is more a safety services issue. Yeah, so, but they have been good about sending our information out and reposting our stuff, but we're glad to, I'll go anywhere, anytime. And
Even
be glad to
thinking
meet
some
with.
of the local, like Cynthia, see her all the time down at the beer market,
True.
yeah, maybe trivia with fire department days, I don't know. But I mean, where you have a group of people that, might not be thinking about this kind of stuff, or.
I can give you a good example of that. A friend of mine has a group that meets for breakfast every Saturday morning. And about 10 of the 15 people are from Miami Township. And he said they were talking about the levy, and they're like, well, we're not going to vote for that. And he said, you know what that means if you don't vote for that? And we're like, oh, they'll be fine. He's like, no, it means that they might have to cut staff, that they may not be able to staff all their stations. They may have to close a station periodically. And they were like, oh no, they won't have to do that. And he's like, yeah, they will. And so he took our information from our newsletter and went over it with them. And all 10 of them said, we didn't realize that. We just thought it would still be there. And so, and these are people who have lived here all their lives, and they didn't realize the importance of the levy, and they didn't realize that what our costs are on personnel, and that while we have other funds available like the general fund and TIP funds to pay for equipment, we can't pay for people out of those TIP funds. So it's really important that we have the money to get and retain the people that we train, because we can spend a lot of money training somebody, and if we can't afford to pay them and be competitive, at least we're never going to be at the top of the pay scale, but we've got to be competitive and offer them an environment that they want to work here. But after we spend thousands of dollars training somebody and then they move on to one of the bigger departments, and these guys, they have to feed their families too. So for them to get the opportunity to make another $1 an hour, $1.50 an hour, that's that's important to them and their families. So we want to keep the good people. We want to get the good people to apply here, and and when we need a paramedic, we want the best paramedic available to be at our doorstep. So.
And Mr. Moore and I brought this up in last year's meeting, but to your question, I think that a lot of people want to talk dollars and cents. But just like Mr. Brett just said, it needs to be about safety. And so if you're talking to neighbors, if you're talking to folks at your church or, whatever civic group or whatever, you can talk numbers all you want, but it's about that station. It's about, is that firefighter, that EMS paramedic, going to come in a timely manner to your doorstep. So I would just encourage our folks to, again, it's factual, but say, hey, it's not just about the pocket, and we understand everybody's struggling, and I mean, that's a big factor, but very, you know, rightfully said, hey, we need to be talking about the safety aspect of it.
I have one thing, and I don't know who wants to answer it. If the 4.5 mils pass, is that a guarantee that no firehouses will close
Starting 26 years.
in 27? So we'll be able to guarantee January 1st of 26, because we're not gonna receive this money until then.
Right.
That our 3 firehouses will remain open. Because I'm not sure people are aware of it right now. Correct me if I'm wrong, Pat. We have a $6 million firehouse on East Miami River Road that is having brownouts right now, correct? Correct. And I'm not so sure people realize we are down to 2 stations now at period time, but that we really don't know when it's gonna happen. It all revolves around staffing, right? So we are in a mode right now where don't think anyone that your new firehouse won't close because we are doing it now. Is that correct? Please, how to put it? Yeah. So that's how we have to look at it. And we're not losing the fire truck. We're also losing the ambulance. So that leaves 2 ambulances. And if I'm wrong or right, we got 21 square miles here. So that's for 2 ambulances, not 3. This levy doesn't pass. We're not fooling nobody here. We're closing the firehouse now. We are definitely gonna close 1.
We're gonna probably close 2.
And maybe 2. So no matter where you live, you need an ambulance or a fire. You're up by Mount Nebo, or I'm gonna say, I'll stick my neck out, this firehouse will not close. The other ones are probably gonna close. That could be a long way for your run, and we do not have the easiest roads in this township to navigate with fire equipment. Consider Buffalo Ridge, run, East Miami River Roads is a nightmare. I know that fire truck runs that every day. That road is in such pitiful shape. I can't understand why we can't get some funding for that road to be upgraded. But a lot of that's due to the heavy volume of traffic with the trucks with the gravel pits. That truck has to go towards the school. You see what it has to do. And I think it's important that people realize here how important this levy is. And I think we're in the right direction. I hope we're in the right direction, because this is a quite serious matter. The way I look at it, I don't know how everyone else in this room looks at it. I wish we had a bigger turnout. That's why we did a Saturday. And we just, I don't know what it is, just can't get the point across. And I feel the point is, these houses will close, and when you tell someone that, that kind of gets them to turn their head and listen. That's
So
how.
we- Chief, correct me if I'm wrong, but the fire department has been going door to door with door hangers. They're getting good feedback. Am I correct on that?
We've gotten really great feedback, and we're answering these questions like Barry was just, and I've done it personally about firehouses being closed. And you know, there's a lot of folks who don't follow social media and all of the other kind of stuff, even in our own community, and they didn't even realize that we're currently closing stations. And if the levy doesn't pass, then if it doesn't pass in November, they put another one on, we're permanently closing stations. Potentially 2 of them. And it's been good feedback when we've had those conversations with the community, like we didn't know that. And a lot of folks that I've talked to personally, they didn't realize when the levy failed in November that we lost one. That makes sense? That we lost that 3.5 that we had already. So there's been a lot of education, just talking and walking, that kind of stuff too. But
People don't understand when they read the, the what that's all saying. They even read it, they're not voting it, they already have preconceived notions, and I just don't want to.
And another thing that I think is important for everyone to know is because of a change in state law, the trustees are very limited, elected officials and township employees are very limited in what they're allowed to do. And they can't promote or try to convince you not to vote for a levy unless they're on their personal time. And it's very difficult, especially for elected officials to have that line. They're getting a little better. I think it's a horrible rule. But just so you know, our full-time, our part-time firemen, our chief, everybody who's out there walking is doing that on their own time. They're not wearing township garb. They're out there on their own promoting this because, they live it every day. They see the importance and they're doing a great job of getting the word out. And that's why meetings like this, where we can present the facts of what can and can't happen and what we would do with the funds, are really the only thing we can do. We can't go out and say, vote yes or vote no, but we can provide you with all the information possible so that you can make an informed decision. And that's what these meetings are all about.
Rick, do we have any other questions?
I have one and I have no idea if this has an impact. These stations closed, that can have an impact on our homeowners insurance.
Correct.
I mean, I would assume that with all the technology and whatever information out there, State Farm's gonna know if I don't have a fire station within 10 miles or so of my house. I mean, that's another thing. Do you spend money here or do you spend money there? Ensure your safety and the safety of your neighbors.
I think really the message that we try to get out in so many different forms, at least this time, with the mail or for people that don't get into social media, something in print, the website, the township website, they've done a really good job with the website. There's a whole section on the fire levy, so there with facts and everything on there. So it's an easy place for people to, if they get quick questions, they can log into their, Ms. Brett, so they pretty much, they've opened up time blocks to chat really anytime with anybody. And it is unfortunate that we don't see more people asking questions.
Well, and I meant to say this earlier, this information is more transparent than I've seen since I've been here, as far as just educating on the non-fire side, but just to educate folks, where do your toxic dollars go in the way? I mean, because I think that, that's something that's needed. And so thank you to Mr. Brett for pulling that together, but to kind of educate folks on this goes to the school, this goes to the police, this goes to fire, this goes to, I mean, I think all of that's good. And hopefully residents recognize that.
Is there going to be any representative or people at the polling places on election day just to,
The members of our fire department have offered to cover that. We've had a couple citizens, just residents offer to
is that,
spend a couple hours.
those are the people that are voting, absentee ballots are already in the midst, but that day of the election, crucial, these people.
And by the way, one of the people who has volunteered to take a 2 to 4 hour shift is a resident of one of the villages who recognizes that that our fire levy helps provide them services because we contract with them for the fire and EMS services. And she realizes that if we can't provide the coverage for the unincorporated area, we can't provide the coverage for them. So the word's getting out there that, this is important for everybody.
Chief, do you know, do they have all the polls covered from open to close
They
right
do.
now?
Yeah.
We do?
Internally, the union set out a scheduling thing that had to do with the walking routes, of going door to door and for the polling hour. So, and it's all full.
Great. All right, anything else from the board?
If I can just address one thing that Barry brought up. So there's nothing on the county engineer's scheduled this year for East Miami River Road in our township, but they are working their way this way. They have a couple of things in the plan. We're gonna talk with Eric Beck. The County Engineer Township Association joint meeting was last Thursday. On,
This past
Tuesday. Well, it was Thursday, right? I've got my days.
just 2 days ago.
Yeah. So trustee Robinson and I were there. You go to so many meetings, you get some of them confused, but, so we're gonna be talking with them about East Miami River Road. We briefly, I talked with Eric Beck, our county engineer, about the roundabout that's been in the works out here for 8 years with someone on life support, but, we had originally, they were looking for a place to hold that. We had offered to allow them to use the building here. In the meantime, they had double booked us in Delhi, and they decided to have it there. And I said, Eric, I know you didn't want to come here because you didn't want us going, hey, let's walk outside and see where this roundabout should be. And he said, I'll tell you what, he said, we'll get that deal done. We'll get you something there, and then we'll have our meeting so we can all go out and look at it afterwards. So keeping in front of the county engineer and working with them will help with East Miami River Road. Hopefully it'll help here. But those are just things that we have to do to, otherwise the squeaky wheel gets the grease and they'll forget about us if we're not there, so.
And also, you want to point out, might have said, and I didn't hear you, but East Miami River Road is a county. It is not a township road. We cannot spend funds on it to repair or repave or anything. So this one we point that out.
But we can lobby for it.
We can lobby for it. We do have 21 miles of roads that we need to take care of. All right, any other questions? We appreciate everyone coming, we really do. If you could talk to your neighbors and friends, we would appreciate it. So, anything else from the board?
Yeah, just a couple of things. Number one, today is that take back day, station 17.
Yes, we're on record.
So, and then just a touch summer concert. First one will be coming up on June 9th.
And August,
Yeah, so naked chorus.
and then what's that? I think it's is it in there, August, what's the date? August 1st, okay. And then also May the 3rd is the shredding. So, and again, we want to reiterate with that that's not for businesses. That rent 45 boxes. That's for residential. Yes.
What do you think?
May 6th is primary.
What do you think?
Just in case everyone gets all right, do we have a motion to adjourn? I will make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Mr. Fuller, Mr. Lamb,
Yes.
and Mr. Robinson. Yes.